What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Dynasty. And today we got a awesome episode. I'm not gonna lie, I'm super excited for this episode because we are 1 week away from the NFL draft, and we're gonna be talking about rookies. So just to give you guys a breakdown of what this video is and what we are about to do, we are going to be doing a head-to-head rookie mock draft. Me and War, we will be going back and forth with picks. We're just drafting players. We're not drafting for teams, obviously, but we are going to be using Chad Reuter from NFL.com. We're going to be using his rookie mock draft 1.0. And that's what we're going to be using for our landing spots. So we're going to be treating that as if this is where the guys got drafted, reacting to it, drafting our teams based off of it. And that is how we're going to be doing that today. And I see we got Spacenfeld in here. Let's go, man. Nice to see you in here. Happy to have you as always. And I say let's just get War in here. Let's talk a little bit here, and then let's get to the draft, man. War, how you doing, man?
Hey man, it's good. It's my birthday, and nothing better than to get a good old pod in here and let's talk about some dynasty players. Let's go.
Yes, sir. We're gonna talk some dynasty rookies. Happy birthday, by the way. And
Thank you.
yeah, man. So, like I said, we use these as landing spots. You and I have already kind of drafted the teams, but we are going to present it right now and really just go about it. So, you had the odd picks 101, 103, 105, all the way to 111. I had the evens 102, 104, 106, all the way to 112. So, we're just going to do the first round. That's all probably we'll have time for today. But I will let you kick it off with 101. And this is who you drafted. Bijan Robinson, running back out of Texas, got drafted by the Chicago Bears first round with the ninth pick. You know, he's 5'11", 215 pounds. And tell me a little bit about why Bijan is going 101.
I mean, come on. Let's be honest here. We're talking about B. John Robinson, and this is by far, I would say, by far what many consider to be the best fantasy football player in this year's upcoming draft. He's an absolute stud. Like there's no ways around it. He's actually projected, and we're not talking. I don't think we're talking dynasty here. I don't think we're talking dynasty here. We're actually talking about full on fantasy football. He's like been ranked as like one of the top three running backs point blank. Period. As far as this draft in particular, the model that we're using, he's a bear, so obviously you guys know that I was going to go for making him a Chicago Bear because that's just how I roll. And the Bears had the top rushing attack last season. You put Bijan Robinson in there, it can only go up. Sky's the limit.
I understand. I mean, I think Bijan is the best player in this draft class. He's the reason why people were tanking, right? Everyone was tanking for Bijan. So I can't knock you going Bijan 101. And especially with top 10 draft capital from Bijan Robinson. It's not very often these days that we're seeing NFL running backs get drafted in the first round, let alone the top 10. So I think that's special draft capital for a special player in Bijan Robinson.
I got to turn my mic up. Space said I'm lacking right
Yeah, you were
now.
lacking a little bit, but he said it before I did, so I just let it go. Um, but yeah, I mean, do you have anything else about Bijan Robinson? I think he's pretty clear cut. It's straightforward.
He kind of just speaks for himself.
Yeah, no, totally agree. So let's go to the 102. And I'm not gonna lie, I surprised myself with this pick a little bit. Um, and I ended up taking Anthony Richardson, quarterback out of Florida. He's 6'4", 244 pounds, and he went third overall in this draft to the Indianapolis Colts. Um, so I got some data for you, and I want to
Yeah.
break it down. But let's talk about Anthony Richardson as a prospect first. 21 years old. He ran a 4.4 340, 129-inch broad jump, 40-inch vertical. Really freak athlete, and
Mhm.
that is what I am really drafting him for. He had 2,549 passing yards and 17 touchdowns last year with 654 rushing yards and 9 rushing touchdowns. So, dual threat quarterback can do everything. But to me, the reason why I took Anthony Richardson 102 over guys that I've touted Bryce Young as my number one quarterback in this class. But I took Anthony Richardson here because getting that top 3 draft capital, data shows that first round quarterbacks produce a top 12 season at least once in their first 3 seasons, about 46% of the time when they're drafted in the first round. But as you dig deeper into the data, you find that about 85% of first round quarterbacks not drafted in the top 10 fail to produce a hit. So, Anthony Richardson, freak athlete. We're looking at him for fantasy football, and he has the tools to be a fantasy football freak. But when I saw him go third overall in this mock draft, getting that top 10, which is such a key indicator with hit rates for quarterbacks, getting that top 10 draft capital, I was sold. I decided to swing for the fences. So to me, going to Indy, it allows him to play with an offense that already has some good pieces. They have Michael Pittman Jr., they have Jelani Woods, they have Alec Pierce, they have Jonathan Taylor. It's going to allow him to kind of do as he does best, and that's just make plays. Like I said, the top 3 pick gave me the confidence that he's going to have the opportunity to start day one as well, which I want. I want him to be able to go out and play right away. And then I just put here in my notes, I said, this really is a shoot for the moon pick for me. And I understand it's a very risky, very high risk pick for me. It makes me a little bit uneasy. I'm not going to lie, because I'm a little risk averse in fantasy football. But it's a pick that I think, assuming this happens in this top 10 draft capital and he gets a landing spot like this is a pick that could win you a dynasty fantasy football championship.
I don't have a problem with you swinging for the fences on this one. I mean, the traits are undeniable. Like the traits are undeniable. They're there. We could be talking about another guy that's up there with Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, as far as the rushing upside. Um, yeah, I don't have an issue with you going Anthony Richardson here, especially with the landing spot either. I think, yeah, that'll set you up pretty good to go.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I took him. So let's talk about, I just mentioned his name, but let's talk about 103 for you. You ended up going Bryce Young, quarterback out of Alabama. He's 5'10", 204 pounds, but he went number 2 overall to the Houston Texans. So tell me why you ended up going Bryce as the second QB off the board.
Yeah, I went Bryce. I mean, for obvious reasons. He's possibly the best quarterback in this draft. I assume that most of us at this point are you doing super flex league, so that's another reason why I would definitely take Bryce Young this high. I am not a huge fan of the landing spot. He's going to Texans, so say what you will about that, but they should be trailing a lot in a lot of these games, so that's going to give you fantasy upside right there with the scoring. Um, he'll have to put some points on the board. On top of that, just he's the best player available. I think in a lot of cases you usually are looking to get Bryce at 1.1 or 1.2. You know, if you're able to grab him at 1.3, I think he's like an almost obvious choice.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I actually kind of slightly disagree with you for the landing spot. I think Houston has 2 bookend tackles already. I think that they have a what I project to be a good coach in D'Amico Ryans. We don't know for sure yet, but I think he'll be a good coach. And they have cap space and draft capital in this draft to continue to add pieces to help Bryce Young and sign some free agents to help build around Bryce Young. So I think it's a landing spot that I think possibly could just age better as we go on through the future of Bryce Young's career.
I can't disagree with you too much on that. I think just the lack of having a bona fide receiver also hurts him. I mean, they did trade away Brandon Cooks. I mean,
Mhm.
he's not like a top end wide receiver, but he has produced 1,000 yard seasons, what 5 straight seasons or something of that nature. So
Yeah,
I think the landing spot is okay. It's just not great. That's kind of how I look at it.
fair enough. All right. Well, let's keep the trend going because I've kind of said this is how it's going to go. It's going to be Bijan and some quarterbacks that come off the board in your super flex drafts. And this is going to be my pick at 104. I'm going to go with CJ Stroud out of Ohio State, 6'3", 214 pounds. And he did end up getting that 101 overall draft capital to the Carolina Panthers. So a little bit about CJ Stroud, man, 21 years old. He's very, very accurate with the football. He threw for 85 touchdowns and 12 interceptions in 2 years as the starter at Ohio State. So those are great numbers that we want to see out of our quarterbacks, right? Strong arm, quick release, plays with touch, has a almost a 70%. It's 69.3% career completion percentage. And a lot of people don't give him the credit that I think he deserves as a dual threat, or the ability to be a dual threat uh, for fantasy football, because he didn't run a lot at Ohio State. But I think we saw when he played against Georgia in the college football playoffs that he does have the ability to kind of get out there and make some plays with his legs. And I think that that's what we want as fantasy football players. So, I view these guys. We just talked about Bryce Young. We talked about CJ Stroud. I view those guys as prospects, as my 1A and my 1B in this class. I think they are better quarterbacks than Anthony Richardson. But I think that Anthony Richardson has the ability to be better fantasy football. So, again, I think CJ Stroud, I think this landing spot going number 1 overall to the Carolina Panthers, I think he's going to have the opportunity to prove it right away that he's worth the number 1 pick. I think the floor for CJ Stroud is very high. I think he has a very safe floor. I think Carolina has a good coach in Frank Reich. And I even think that they have a better, and that might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think they have an even better quarterback coach in Josh McCown. And Josh McCown's on the internet talking about how much he loves CJ Stroud and how much he wants to help develop CJ Stroud. So I think this is a great landing spot for CJ. The draft capital, obviously, you can't get any better than that. They have a good offensive line, and I think he's going to have the ability with the Carolina Panthers to be probably a top 15 dynasty quarterback after year 1.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. That's the one thing that I do really like about the Panthers having that pick and taking CJ Stroud is I think as far as like the coaching staff, he set up really well. Like honestly, if he can't get it done with that coaching staff, then that just means that he's not cut out for the job. So I mean, I think he already has a good foundation as far as coaching. Yes, the team needs weapons. They do need some guys there to help him out, but yeah, as far as coaching, I think we're right there eye to eye on that one. You taking CJ Stroud here is it's gets a thumbs up for me.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's how I feel a lot with kind of these top 5 to 6 picks in this year's class in general. I feel like you can't really go wrong with a lot of these guys. A lot of them have high enough ceilings, and the potential's there on a lot of these guys that you you could be very happy with any of these top 6, top 7 picks in your rookie drafts. Um, and again, I mentioned that I like the landing spot. That offensive line, I think, is very underrated. They've done very well improving it in the last couple years drafts. So he's kind of going to go somewhere where the offensive line is going to be kind of a safety net for him as well. He's going to be able to extend some plays like we've seen him do. And the thing about CJ Stroud is when he's extending a play and when he's done it in the past at Ohio State, it's not necessarily meaning that CJ is looking to tuck the ball and run. CJ is one of these quarterbacks that kind of, wiggles in and out of the pocket, and he extends the play with his legs, ends up looking downfield. He keeps his eyes downfield, and he ends up making the right pass most of the time. So I think CJ, I think he's going to be a really good pro quarterback. I think he's going to be a very solid fantasy quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. So that is why I took him 104. Let's go to 105, where we're going to finally break the trend, and let's talk about a guy named Jackson Smith-Njigba. He played at Ohio State, wide receiver, 6'1", 196 pounds. He got picked first round, pick 21 by the Los Angeles Chargers in this mock. So talk to me about Jackson Smith-Njigba, War.
Well, Jackson Smith-Njigba, if this is how my draft is breaking, I would be so happy right now. Um, because in my opinion, from where I stand, I already have the projected best QB in the draft. I have the best running back in the draft, and now I'm getting to take the best wide receiver in the draft. What do you got here? He's going to a location where, as much as I criticize him, he has a stud quarterback in Justin Herbert. He's going to be able to deliver that rock to him. He's going to be able to put up some numbers there. Not only that, but he has two incumbent wide receivers on the roster already. He has Keenan Allen, who's like one step closer to retirement every season, and we have Mike Williams, a guy who's barely there half of the season due to injuries. That on top of that, I just think that it's a very good landing spot for him. I mean, the targets are there. I'm not even going to get into the Austin Eckler um, part of it here because that's coming later. But just those facts, the facts that there's a clear path to him being the top wide receiver on the roster, him having a quarterback that's going to be there for years to come. He's young, he's a stud, and just the opportunities there, and that's what you want. You want opportunities, you want location, and I think if Jackson Smith-Njigba went to the Chargers, I think he has all those things.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. For me, Jackson Smith-Njigba is the clear-cut wide receiver one of this class. He's a elite route runner, can separate at all levels of the field. He's a safety net to any quarterback. And when you give a guy like Justin Herbert a safety net, imagine the fantasy football fireworks that could happen with Jackson Smith-Njigba and Justin Herbert. This is up there with best case scenario, best landing spot possible, I think, for Jackson Smith-Njigba. This would be a dream fantasy scenario for me, especially as somebody who has plenty of picks in the early round or early half of the first round this year. I would love some Jackson Smith-Njigba in LA.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. You can't go wrong with that landing spot. It's almost the perfect spot.
Yeah. Um, well, I'm going to take us right back to where we were supposed to go. And I really don't want to be that show. I mean, you took a bear. I'm going to end up taking a Minnesota Viking, Will Levis, quarterback, 6'4", 229 pounds. But again, I want to bang the fact that this guy was drafted pick 10. The Vikings traded up to move him in this mock draft. So Will Levis goes to the Minnesota Vikings. And I just gave you the data about top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL draft. Will Levis, he's 23 years old. The arm talent of Will Levis, the strength is incredible. He was throwing at the combine. They were doing a drill where they were throwing it at the pad. It was tracking the speed, the ball speed, and the power behind that. It's some of the best we've ever seen. It's his arm talent is ridiculous. And he has very solid rushing ability. That's probably one of his better traits that he has, as well as his ability to run and escape the pocket and kind of make plays with his legs. But
I feel like okay, I feel like you already know this because you're always on top of your stuff. This just seems like a very possible thing of happening. Will Evans going to I mean, I seen a rumor right before we got on here saying like the Vikings are like looking into Kirk Cousins trades. Like I don't know
yeah,
how viable that is, but I mean there's smoke and there's a little bit of fire here with this Will Levis thing. So I mean I think it actually you could be speaking into an existence here.
yeah. I mean, since the NFL Combine, the word around U.S. Bank is that Kevin O'Connell hasn't been able to get the words Will Levis out of his mouth. He's been talking super highly of him ever since the combine. And yeah, I mean, it's really a situation that could happen. I've even heard of Minnesota being one of the teams that called Arizona to see what it would cost to move up to number 3. But I do want to bring in the fact, Will Levis, he passed for 2,406 yards last year, and it was 19 touchdowns. Nothing fantastic. It's nothing you're going to go home about. But I do want to bring up the fact that he played most of last year hurt. He was dealing with ankle injuries, shoulder injuries, turf toe. He was banged up, and the offensive line got way worse last year than it was the previous year. So 2021, if you go back, you watch that tape, 2021 looks a lot better. And does that kind of give you a little bit of a red flag? Maybe. But I also think, a quarterback can only be as good as the team around him. We've seen that happen in the NFL before. But really the biggest things and the reason why I'm taking this pick and why I'm going home about it is, again, going top 10, it gives him that quarterback hit rate that we talked about. It's really beneficial. He's going to a team in Minnesota that is going to allow him to play for what I believe is a very good coach. It's going to be a QB friendly offense. And of course, he gets to have the Justin Jefferson target that he gets to throw to every single day. So that kind of gives him a little bump, in my opinion. Overall, I think he's going to be able to work on some of the accuracy. Whether he'll be able to fix it or not, I don't know. That is an issue that we've seen before. But overall, I prefer taking my shot here at the quarterback position rather than shooting somewhere else with Jackson Smith-Njigba and Bijan Robinson off the board. Those guys are, I would probably take both of them, obviously, over Will Levis. But when those guys are off the board, I'll just shoot the quarterback that got drafted top 10.
Yeah, I think that's a sound strategy. I mean, I think anybody would do that. I would take a Will Levis over a Zay Flowers or Quick Johnston, one of those guys, Zach Charbonnet.
Yep.
Um, I would definitely like if you have a chance to grab the one of the top four quarterbacks this at this point in the draft, you do it.
Yeah. And I think this and a little bit beyond is where the draft kind of gets interesting because, we talk super flex and we talk about how important those quarterbacks are. And for better or for worse, in this mock draft, all four quarterbacks got that top 10 draft capital. So you can, have higher hit rates and there's higher expectations for these guys when they get drafted that highly. But I think moving on out for the rest of this draft, we'll have a little bit more stuff to talk about. So let's just go to 107. And this is one of the most interesting landing spots that I feel like we've had in this draft so far. And it's going to be Jahmyr Gibbs, running back out of Alabama. He's 5'9", 199 pounds. He went at the end of the second round. It was round 2, pick 63, and he goes to the Kansas City Chiefs. So talk to me about Jahmyr Gibbs, the Chief.
You know, I was really confused about. Well, I guess not because it's a running back, but for fantasy purposes, I was like, wow, he went that low. But I had to remember this is based off of actual draft. Let's get right into it. Jahmyr Gibbs, pretty much the second best running back in this draft, and we have him going to the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that has one of the best offenses in the league, has the best quarterback in the league, and just a possible concern for a running back competition. But who are the competitors? Isaiah Pacheco, Jared McKinnon, is he even still on the roster?
It's a free agent.
Uh, he's a free agent. So you bring in a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs to the Chiefs, and yeah, Pacheco he did a serviceable job last year, but I think Jahmyr Gibbs takes that job and runs away with it. No pun intended. Um, I love the landing spot, man. I mean, if the Chiefs came away from this draft with Jahmyr Gibbs, oh my goodness, that'd be
Filthy.
filthy. Yeah, it's a good
He's
word to
just
describe it.
he's just he's just such a good athlete. And I think, he's he's twitchy, he's quick, he's really good with that outside run or the outside zone kind of run scheme. He's really good in the passing game. So I think you add him to a guy like Patrick Mahomes, it's just, is he gonna get bell cow usage? Probably not, but I think that
Yeah,
the big playability in Kansas City is going to be exactly what you want. And I think Jahmyr Gibbs going to Kansas City, I think you would have to view him at least similarly to how you view Travis Etienne in Jacksonville right now,
yeah.
which is what,
Uh,
a top 5, top 7 running back at the Dynasty.
yeah.
I don't know. I think you'd have to
I
view him that
mean,
high.
come on, man. It's almost like a cheat code. You get Jahmyr Gibbs and put him in the Chiefs offense. Patrick Mahomes. There's nothing but opportunity there. I mean, we're talking about Travis Kelsey, and then we have guys like Sky, Sky there. There's not many
MVS.
NVS, which I deny his existence altogether.
Yeah, Tony.
Uh, I mean, there's just nothing but opportunity for a new guy to come in on an offensive floor. So this isn't going to be the first time you guys hear me say this either.
Yeah.
There's nothing but opportunity there. You have that opportunity with the preeminent best quarterback in the NFL and the best coach in the NFL. I mean, you almost have to consider. Tell me this. You almost have to consider if Jahmyr Gibbs goes to the Chiefs. You almost have to consider taking him even higher than this in a
Yeah.
draft.
I mean, you and I, we're not drafting based off of team need. We don't have teams that we're drafting
Yeah,
off of.
yeah,
But if you are a team that needs a running back, I mean, you could consider Jameer Gibbs as the 102,
yep.
the 103. Like, because if you need a running back, say you're a team that has, let's say you have, Josh Allen and your QB2 is, let's call it, uh what's a middle tier kind of quarterback? We could say you have like
Tua.
yeah, let's say you have Josh Allen and Tua. Are you gonna go Jameer Gibbs or are you going Bryce Young? It's a real question
It's a real question. Yeah, definitely.
because you might be able to get by a year with Tua or 2 years and see what happens with Tua because next year, you have Drake May, Caleb Williams, and then the year after that, you're gonna have, another class of quarterbacks. So I don't know. I like the landing spot. I think there's an argument that if you needed a running back, for example, let's use my team in a Tea Party. I have Josh Allen and Justin Herbert as my quarterbacks. If
Yeah,
I had the 102, the 103, and Jameer Gibbs goes to, and I need running back, I just have Dalvin Cook there. If Jameer Gibbs goes 103, why not? Like I don't see why I wouldn't consider that. So because I
you
wouldn't
have
need the
to.
quarterback. So maybe I'm showing my card. Hopefully nobody in that league is listening to me right now, but uh that's something that could happen. But let me not dig myself into a hole right now. Let's talk about my pick at 108 and it's going to be the first wide receiver drafted off the board in this mock draft and it's going to be Jordan Addison, wide receiver, 5'11", 173 pounds. Uh he's coming out of USC and like I said, he was the first wide receiver drafted, the 12th pick overall to the Houston Texans. So in this mock draft, uh, the Texans take Bryce Young and then they take Jordan Addison. So uh, part of my argument here is that Jordan Addison is 21 years old. He's coming off of 875 yards and 8 touchdowns at USC. It's not great. He's had better years at Pitt, but he's in a new offense for the first time last year. He's playing with Caleb Williams. Great things uh, happened for Jordan Addison as far as the team went, but he's a little bit smaller than some of the wide receivers, or he's a little bit smaller than you'd like to see, and I think that's kind of the theme with a lot of the wide receivers in this class. There's very few that have that prototypical size and Jordan Addison, he kind of falls into that aspect of a smaller wide receiver. But I do have some stats here. He lined up on the line of scrimmage 58% of the time. He also lined up off the line about 41% of the time. Took 67% of his snaps from the outside right wide receiver and 24% of his snaps from the slot. Um, so he played a lot of outside. He played in the slot a little bit, but not too much. And what I saw was he had a 71% success rate versus man and an 80% success rate versus zone, which are very high. I wouldn't say very elite numbers, but they're very good numbers for a wide receiver to have an 80% success rate versus zone. Um, the top 12 draft capital for him in this mock draft is kind of what made him a clear pick for me right here. It does pair him with Bryce Young, who I think is a highly accurate quarterback. Like you mentioned earlier in your argument, the Texans don't have a ton of weapons. This would allow him to go to a place where, they've lost 37% of their target share this season in Brandon Cooks, Chris Moore, and Philip Dorsett. So he will have the opportunity right away to go in and eat up as much of that 37% vacated targets as possible. So Jordan Addison going here playing with Bryce Young. That's why I pick him at the 108. I think he would be my wide receiver too.
I don't think you can go wrong with that. I remember when we were doing our prep for this pod. I initially took Jordan Addison before I looked to see where Jameer Gibbs went because I
Yeah.
felt like it made so much sense to get that stack of Bryce Young and Jordan Addison. I don't have a disagreement with anything you said. I think once again, word of the day, opportunity. Who else is going to get those targets in Houston? And then you got arguably the best quarterback in the draft throwing in the ball. So I know there were some concerns about him because initially he was pretty much considered to be
The clear
the
two.
wide receiver. D-Rock, even more so, I heard more about him than JSN initially. It was Quentin Johnson, Addison, and then after that you get into JSN, but JSN kind of just leapfrog both of those guys. But yeah, Jordan Addison, I think this will be a good opportunity for him to come in. No pressure of having to produce right now. Yeah, I don't have a problem with the pick or the landing spot, honestly.
Yeah, and like I said, when you have 40 almost 40% of your targets for the last year walk out the door, somebody has to come in and get that. Like, it doesn't just disappear, especially when you're upgrading the quarterback position. So you might even say that, that 37% with Davis Mills, that might actually be 45% or 48% with Bryce Young. So somebody's got to come in and eat it up. And I know they just added Dalton Schultz, but he can't take 50% of the targets by himself. So Jordan Addison would have a great opportunity, and the draft capital, that top 15 wide receiver draft capital, that is, I mean, we've seen some really, really good players get drafted in that range in the last couple years. So yeah, I mean, that's all I have to say about Jordan Addison. I think I would have taken Jackson Smith over him, but with the draft capital he got and the opportunity, I think he became my clear number 2 wide receiver in this mock draft.
Yeah.
So let's go to 109. We have 4 picks left, but you're going to take Zach Charbonnet, running back out of UCLA. 6 feet tall, 214 pounds. He went round 2, pick 54 to the Los Angeles Chargers. So he gets to stay in LA, going from UCLA to LAC. And you take him. So tell me why you're taking Zach Charbonnet here.
Oh yeah, I'm just loving this draft so far. Um, after having numerous, because like just to let you guys behind the curtain a little bit, Andrew is the preeminent like fantasy guy, like amongst the guys we talked to. So before I even start doing research, Andrew's like, "Yeah, this guy, that guy," and instantly telling me about Zach Charbonnet. I like him just off bat. That's the main reason I was like, "Oh my god, I could still get the chance to get Zach Charbonnet." And not only that, but he's going to a location where again he has a stud quarterback. He has a stud quarterback there to support him, to anchor him as the lead back. Keyword lead back. Is Austin Eckler going to be there? That's the thing. And even if Austin Eckler is there this season, he's not going to be there next season. I think we can almost guarantee that between age and him not wanting to leave, he's not going to be there. So I think there's even a chance that the Chargers even try to get Charbonnet involved a little bit more than they would usually get another running back involved just to get him prepared to be the lead back of that team. Um, he's the third best running back in this draft. Um, I would love to draft him if he goes to the Chargers, and I would not be afraid whatsoever of the presence of Austin Eckler. I understand that that probably would be a reason why a lot of people wouldn't draft him in this spot, but it definitely wouldn't stop me from doing it. Um, and I'm not the biggest Austin Eckler guy to begin with, so that's pretty much where I am with Zach Charbonnet. I just think that he should be a lock for this position. This is like one of the best. I always want to prepare. I always want to pair my fantasy players that I'm drafting in dynasty with quarterbacks that are firmly in place in their position. You know, this isn't a situation where he's joining the Commanders and Sam Howell's the quarterback, and it's like, is he going to be the quarterback or is it going to be someone else? His guys firmly in place. He can get that chemistry with Justin Herbert, and they could just move forward together. And I think that if this went down this way, it will be just the new three-headed monster between Justin Herbert, JSN, Zach Charbonnet. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be fantastic. Zach, as a prospect, man, kind of a he's kind of a master of everything, but master of none kind of guy. Like, nothing about Zach Charbonnet, I feel like, is
Matt
special.
Forte.
Yeah, yeah. So nothing about Zach is special. He doesn't have like elite speed. He's not an elite, you know, pass catcher. He's not. There's nothing elite about Zach Charbonnet, but he's very, very good at a lot of things. And I think if you get Zach Charbonnet, Obviously that second round draft capital, that's huge for us. Especially as dynasty managers, we want guys who are being drafted. Really, running backs, we want guys drafted in the first, second, or third. And if it's outside of those three, you're kind of just throwing darts. So at this point, I think you're right. They draft Zach to replace Austin Eckler or be the replacement to Austin Eckler. Whether it's immediate or not, I don't know. I don't really care. But Zach Charbonnet, I think he would be fantastic in LA. And I think you're right. As you get to the back end of this first round, 108, 109, 110, 111, wherever you're at, I think Zach Charbonnet, kind of assuming that he does get this draft capital and he does have it in this mock, I think he kind of becomes one of those clear, like, you got to pick this guy in this range prospects.
Yeah, absolutely 100%.
All right. Well, we have three more guys. I will go with my second to last pick, and it's going to be Zay Flowers, wide receiver out of Boston College. He's 5'9", 182 pounds. He got drafted in the second round, pick 39 from the Carolina Panthers. So they got to pair him with CJ Stroud in this one. So I ended up getting the CJ Stroud and the Zay Flowers stack. But Zay, he's 22 years old, coming off of 1,077 yards and 12 touchdowns in 2022. And just like Addison and kind of what I was talking about with Jordan Addison, he is a little bit smaller. He's one of those prospects that, doesn't meet your prototypical size for the most part. But I do think that Zay Flowers projects fine as an outside receiver and as a slot wide receiver in the NFL. I think he has the ability to play both outside and in. Just looking at his numbers from college, he did take about 30% of his sampled snaps from the slot. He did take 39% of those at the right outside wide receiver, and he took 26 of them at the left outside wide receiver. So he kind of was 30-30-30 split all over the field, played everywhere. He took about 58% of the snaps behind the line of scrimmage and 41 at the line of scrimmage. 73% success rate versus man, 80% success rate versus zone. Those check out. Those are good numbers we want to see. And for me, it's that early second round draft capital. It's fine. He gets to play with CJ Stroud. I think going to Carolina, he's going to have the opportunity to play for the number one wide receiver slot right away. He's really going to have to just beat out older veterans like Adam Thielen and DJ Shark. And I think he has the talent to do that. And I don't mind taking a guy that I think is a fantastic separator, can play all over the field, has early second round draft capital, and is going to be tied to CJ Stroud for the rest of his rookie contract. I'll take that guy at the 110. Why not?
Yeah, Andrew, I think that's a good pick. I mean, for like you said, the same reasons as Jordan Addison. You're pairing him with the man of the future, the quarterback who's going to lead that team into the future, hopefully.
Yeah.
Lead them into the future. His competitors are Adam Thielen and who lost a step or two in the last couple years, and DJ Shark, a guy who could not really be a viable option where the opportunity was present for the Detroit Lions last season. Um, I have no issues with this pick. I think Flowers. I don't think he'll be DJ Moore, but I do think that he'll get the opportunity to show them that he could be DJ Moore's replacement, and sometimes that's all it takes is the opportunity.
Yeah, and for people who aren't super familiar with Zay Flowers, if you know who Matt Harmon is, you know about reception perception. And Matt Harmon's kind of this, some would call him the wide receiver guru in the space. He, this reception perception model that he's built kind of is able to project NFL success. And for what it's worth, Matt Harmon is a pretty good fan of Zay Flowers. He kind of compares Zay Flowers to Deontay Johnson at the NFL level. So if you're drafting Deontay Johnson at the 110, I would have to assume you're pretty happy about it.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
that's a top 20 wide receiver.
I would say so. Yeah, I would say
So
so.
yeah, I mean, I think Zay Flowers will be fine. I think this is, he's kind of best player available on the board for me at this point in the draft, and so that's why he kind of lands on my team at 110. But 111, you have another wide receiver that you ended up going, and this guy has first round draft capital. So it's going to be Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee, 6 foot, 176 pounds, and he was drafted with the 22nd pick in the first round to the Kansas City Chiefs. So you're going to get your second Chief of the day, and tell me why you like Jalen Hyatt here in KC.
This is going to sound like as generic of an answer as someone can give. I like Jalen Hyatt in KC because Jalen Hyatt is in KC. That's the number one reason why. Once again, best quarterback in the NFL, the Chiefs offense, the room for a new weapon to flourish because of the opportunity. I'll be honest, I don't know much about Jalen Hyatt. He wasn't one of the top guys that I was looking into and, as somebody I would take in the first round. But like many dynasty drafts, you see them going to that perfect landing spot, and it's like, okay. Same deal with Sky Moore. When Sky Moore went to the Chiefs, I was like, he went from me not really caring, okay, maybe I'll grab him in late third, to actually being someone, okay, let me plan to get this guy on the team. Because we all are trying to get that next Tyreek Hill, and we're trying to be the first ones to grab him. Jalen Hyatt, what do I think of him about a prospect? I don't know much about him. I'll be completely honest. He strictly is one of those guys that I'm taking because of the location. Him as a prospect will be the least of the reason why I'm taking him as a location. It would be the offense, the quarterback. Those things would be the two things that I would take him for first. And if it means anything, I spoke to B Dub and spoke to him about the prospects. And B Dub, huge Kansas City Chiefs fan, he said that he wouldn't be too excited if Jalen Hyatt became the next Kansas City Chief. So I actually have to put a little thought into that one. But I would take him just because he's a Chief, and it's pretty much simple as that, man.
Okay, fair enough. I think you know, I'll be honest with you too. I'm not a big fan of Jalen Hyatt as a prospect. Jalen Hyatt projects to kind of fit that prototypical mold of like a Will Fuller. Um, but you say that, and then you say, okay, if I put Will Fuller in the Kansas City Chiefs offense, there could be some fantasy fireworks. And so I understand the pick. You're shooting upside. I just think that Jalen Hyatt is kind of a risky wide receiver prospect. Um, for me, I like to prioritize guys who can separate well. And Jalen Hyatt does not separate well. He has blazing speed, so he can beat you. I was just looking at one of his successes or success by routes in 2022. That 9 route, it's like green. So you put him on a 9 route, he goes straight out the field. It's gonna be good. He's gonna outrun the guys in man. He's gonna outrun the guys, that have to guard him in that zone when he's running a 9. But you put Patty Mahomes as on the backside of that ball, and I could see some long touchdowns.
Would you look at this in a similar fashion to the Packers drafting Christian Watson last season?
Um,
Where it's like, okay, the kid is a prospect. All right, but he has Aaron Rodgers.
in that regard, yeah, I'd say a little bit. I think Hyatt and Watson are very different wide receivers.
Hmm.
Um, but
But
yes,
circumstance wise,
circumstance wise, the landing spot and the
yeah.
draft capital. I mean, we just talked about he got first round draft capital to the Kansas City Chiefs. Uh, you're checking boxes right away. Like, we want first round draft capital. Check. You want him to play in an offense that has a quarterback. Oh, let's just give him the best quarterback in the NFL. Check. Now you want him to play in an offense that's going to be wide receiver friendly. Oh, boom. Let's just check that off the box. Oh, and I also want opportunity with no competition. Yes,
Yep.
check. Boom. Put it off the box. So we're checking those things. It's just, is Jalen Hyatt that guy?
Or
TBD.
is it going to be a situation where they draft similar to the Packers last season, where they draft just some guy in the sixth round, and it comes to find out that guy is actually a better match with Patrick Mahomes than Jalen Hyatt?
Yeah, exactly. You could take a
Yeah,
Marvin Mims or something later in the
yeah,
draft,
Marvin
and then
Mims.
you're
Yeah,
like, Oh, Marvin Mims actually is having a better camp than Jalen Hyatt.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
could see it happening. But I mean, at this point, we're at the back end of the first round, and we're shooting shots at guys we think could be fantasy relevant, and think that guys not only could be fantasy relevant, but guys you want to put in your starting lineup. And if you had Will Fuller, I mean, if you go into our league history, um, in the league, and if you go there and you look at like the highest fantasy scoring performances of all time on that leaderboard, you'll see Will Fuller on there twice. And
yeah,
if you're getting that with Jalen Hyatt, he's going to win you a couple weeks, man. And that's all you want.
yeah, yeah.
So I can't knock you for taking Jalen Hyatt there. I'm just not a huge fan of the prospect, but the landing spot and all the other boxes that we checked that we just went through, yeah, I love it. Um,
Absolutely.
so we'll go with my last pick in the draft, and we're going to go 112. And I'm sure there's some people that have been out there watching that are like, where is this guy? Well, he's here now. It's Quentin Johnston. Some people's wide receiver 2 in the class. Some people have him, or like you said, Wars have had him as wide receiver 1. But he's 6'3", 208 pounds. He has that size we look for in a prototypical wide receiver. He went round 2, pick 34 to the Arizona Cardinals out of TCU. And just some notes that I have here on Quentin Johnston, man. Again, great size. This is the size we want out of an X wide receiver at the NFL level. He's 21 years old, so he's still young. Coming off of 1,069 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns in 2022 for a really solid TCU team, a team that played in the national championship. Johnston was on the line of scrimmage for 75% of his sampled snaps, so he did go right to the line of scrimmage. Saw a decent amount of press coverage. Wasn't really bothered by a lot of the press coverage, and often was playing the left side of the field. He played the left side of the field 81.1% of the time, which that is your X wide receiver. So he played the X wide receiver position for TCU 81% of the time. That is what he projects to be at the NFL level. Little bit about success rates for Quentin Johnston. 74.8% success against man, 72.8 against zone. So not as good as we've seen with Addison and Zay that I talked about earlier. But he saw 70% success against press coverage. So again, he is a good wide receiver. There are things about Quentin Johnston that people have questions about. He's a bigger guy, but he catches a lot of body catches. He doesn't really high point the ball. He's not making a ton of hand catches. Super athletic. I think going to a place here in Arizona, I don't know what to think of the coaching staff that they have there right now, but I do think that him going there would mean that a DeAndre Hopkins trade is happening. So I do like the fact that, hey, he's going to go here. He's going to play alongside, probably play the number 2, opposite Hollywood Brown, because I think Hollywood would be the number 1 target there, at least for now. And Quentin Johnston would have the opportunity to slide right into there, because I don't see a guy like Rondell Moore or any of these other guys going in and taking that X wide receiver spot. Quentin Johnston would fill that immediately. But I do like the fact that he would play with a guy like Kyler Murray. The problem is we don't have Kyler Murray for at least the first half of this next season. So it could be a
At
very
least.
slow, ugly start for Quentin Johnson.
I'm right there with you, man. Like I think those last couple of points that you made were the main reasons, but at the same time, I think you have to take him here. He's too good of a prospect to leave on the board at this point in the first round. Do I like the landing spot? Absolutely not. Outside of opportunity, your only real competitive competition is Hollywood Brown. Um, Rondell Moore, your baby. Not
And they're
not
very
not
different
worried about
players.
him. Not worried about him being the main guy. You will be drafting Quentin Johnson with the hopes that he is the main guy. He is the big go up and get it receiver, the guy that you're gonna throw the ball to when you really need to score. Um, Outside of that, this coaching staff, they're a complete unknown. Kyler
Mm-hmm.
Murray could realistically miss the entire season, like if everything doesn't go right. And even if he wasn't missing the season, there's just so many questions about Kyler. Kyler, just off bat, I mean, he's literally the NFL's answer to Trey Young. You just don't know with this guy. And, we're going to bring a rookie wide receiver in here and hope that he, isn't Kyler Murray isn't rubbing off on him in the wrong way. Hope this coaching staff isn't completely inept to where they turn this kid into a bust. I mean, there's definitely a lot of risk here, but the talent is too good to leave him on the board at this point in the draft.
Yeah, and I'm searching up right now who the wide receiver coach is in it's Drew Terrell. Okay. Because I'm thinking about Quentin Johnston, and I'm like, the best thing that I think could happen for Quentin Johnston is he gets into a wide receiver room that maybe has a vet or two um, that can kind of help him learn and adapt uh, and grow as a route runner at the NFL level. Because I think what Quentin Johnston possesses already is he's one of those big play guys that's going to give your offense some juice just right off the bat. It's just a matter of making Quentin Johnston do that consistently. Because right now he's very boom bust. We've seen, even with Max Dugan at TCU, like he was making big plays one game, and then the next game he'd be gone and MIA. And it's just like, who is Quentin Johnston? I think I was watching Steve Smith Sr. break down a video of Quentin Johnston, and he's
Yeah,
like, you
I saw
turn on
that.
the tape, and he's like, sometimes it's just like, holy cow, this is a man amongst boys. And then the next play you look at it, and you're like, they've completely wiped you and eliminated you out of a play, and we can't find you on the screen. So it's just a matter of making Quentin Johnston get to a team where he can kind of continue to develop his route running, continue to develop some consistency at the wide receiver position. And I think if he does that, he's going to be a very good wide receiver in the NFL. It's just a matter of, can he go to the NFL and develop that? Because right now the big plays is the bread and butter, and we know as well as everybody else that big playability can't be the bread and butter at the NFL level. It
Yeah,
helps.
yeah, yeah. It helps, but can't be the bread and butter. With kids with the same profile as Quentin Johnston, I want to say, I want to say Alshon Jeffrey type guys, like the big guys, big receivers.
Mike
I mean,
Williams.
Mike Williams. You see that a lot. You see these guys just make plays where you're like, damn, this kid is like amazing, and then he'll disappear for like the rest of the game. So I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a question. I seen the video on Steve Smith you were talking about. So I
Yeah.
mean, that's definitely. But once again, at this point in the draft, you definitely have to take the guy that has the high ceiling,
Absolutely.
unless you
And I
need a tight end.
yeah, and full disclosure, I did debate Mayer there because Mayer got first round draft capital. He went 15 to the Green Bay Packers. And I guess let me talk about some of the guys that were left off the board.
Yeah,
Um, and I'm gonna pull it up right now. Sorry, I'm a little behind. Actually, I have it in my phone. I put text it to you.
yeah, yeah. I'll have it right up in front of me.
Okay, yeah, I got it right now. So it's some of the guys that were left off the board were so I'll just go through the fantasy relevant guys in rounds 1 and 2. So somebody who wasn't picked was Michael Mayer to the Green Bay Packers at 15. Dalton Kincaid went to the Cowboys, first round pick 26. Hendon Hooker went to the Raiders, second round pick 36. Tajay Spears went to the Saints, second round pick 40. Darnell Washington to the Titans, second round pick 41. Cedric Tillman to the Falcons, round 2 pick 44. Rashee Rice to the Packers, round 2 pick 45. Luke Musgrave to the Commanders, round 2 pick 47. Sam Laporta to the Dolphins, round 2 pick 51. Marvin Mims to the Seahawks, round 2 pick 52. Tucker Kraft to the Lions, round 2 pick 55. And those are the guys that were picked in the first 2 rounds that were not drafted. Is there anybody on there that kind of sticks out to you, Ward, that you considered as well?
um, I'll just do a quick run through of like what I love, what I hate, real quick. Michael Mayer to the Packers. I like it, especially with Jordan Love, as Jordan Love needing his security blanket. I like Dalton Kincaid to the Cowboys. Um, because I mean they just like guys named Dalton, right? Andy Dalton, Dalton Schultz, Dalton Kincaid. So, so like, why not? Um, Hendon Hooker to the Raiders, I like that because that's the perfect setup to have, a veteran like Jimmy G there and for him to be behind. Hate Tajay Spears to the Saints. I mean, I feel like that position's a little confusing as it is. I mean, yeah, who knows? Who knows with there? I actually just made a trade in another league where I acquired Jamal based on one of our past videos.
Hmm.
I made a trade for Jamal Williams because I had Kamara, and I was just like, yeah, I need to make sure I get that security. Darnell Washington, you know how I feel about Darnell Washington. I hate him going to the Titans. I just feel like as far as him being a viable fantasy option, I feel like that really hurts him going there. Marvin Mims to Seattle, not happy about it.
Yeah.
I do not like the idea of Geno Smith having two good seasons in a row. I just don't think it's gonna happen. Uh, um, that those are pretty much the ones that really stood out to me.
Yeah. No, I agree. I somewhat disagree with you on the Tajay Spears pick because I think Tajay Spears is one of the better backs in this class. If we're being fully honest, I think I would have Tajay Spears as a top 5 back for me in this class. I think he has the ability. There's been videos that I've posted here in the past where I've talked about him out of Tulane, and he's he's somebody that if this he's getting second round draft capital, I I would be very it would be very hard for me not to shoot my shot on a guy like Tajay Spears, especially with second round draft capital.
I couldn't say that it's not a need. I wouldn't be able to say it's not a need for the simple fact that Alvin Kamara looks like he's in his last days as a New Orleans Saint. Jamal Williams doesn't even seem like he's not a long term option at all. He's already 28, 29 years old. So I mean, yeah, I guess I put too much of my like personal stock into it. Like, damn it, I have Kamara, he gets arrested. I just traded for Jamal Williams. Now they're gonna bring another guy here that I gotta try to draft because you know how I am about handcuffs.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you know what? They get a little more into it. Yeah, he probably is a. I got to stop hating on the pick. I mean, he probably is a good fit for them to be honest. I
Yeah.
still hate the Darnell Washington Titans. I hate it.
Yeah, fair enough. And I do want to bring up Spacenfeld's comment because I put it on the screen, but he said Reuter did his guy dirty, leaving Josh Downs off of the out of the first 2 rounds. And yeah, I mean, I I think Josh Downs is a lot better of a prospect than some of those guys that got drafted in the second round as well. I'm just looking at the mock, and I want to say that Downs was drafted here. Man, they drafted him so late. Pick oh my gosh, you're gonna love this one, Spacenfeld. They took him pick 86 in the third round to the Baltimore Ravens. So
Okay, that's why.
yeah, I mean, yeah,
That's
man,
why.
it's not good, but I agree. I think Josh Downs is a better prospect than some of the guys that got drafted. I would definitely draft him over guys like Marvin Mims and things like that. In my personal experience, but other than that, um, do you have anything else? I guess we could just recap really quickly what we did. 101 Bijan Robinson, 102 Anthony Richardson, 103 Bryce Young, 104 CJ Stroud, 105 Jackson Smith-Njigba, 106 Will Levis, 107 Jameer Gibbs, 108 Jordan Addison, 109 Zach Charbonnet, 110 Zay Flowers, 111 Jalen Hyatt, and 112 Quentin Johnston. So I would be interested to hear you guys. I mean, like I said, War, you had the odd numbers. I had the even numbers. You guys let us know in the comments below which side you're taking. Are you taking odd or are you taking even? Whose group of players are you guys taking? And other than that, I don't really have much left to say. Do you have anything else, War?
No, just let the audience know. I've been doing this entire pod, holding the mic like a news reporter in my hand. So because my arm failed on me, but no, I don't have anything else to add, guys. I think this is a pretty. If this is my real draft, I would be very happy. But unfortunately, in any of the leagues I'm in, I cannot acquire that many picks because my name is not Andrew.
Hey, I was acquiring these picks like a year and a half down the road. So you can start doing this if you start trading for 25 picks today. That's the way to
True.
do it. Do it a year or two in advance. They're cheaper that way. But you guys know what to do. Before you leave the video, leave a thumbs up, leave a comment, share the video, subscribe, do all the things that you know you're supposed to be doing to help our channel grow. We really do appreciate you guys because without you guys, there's no channel, there's no community, there's no growth. So thank you guys for taking some time, taking an hour out of your day to watch this video with us. And other than that, go join the Discord. It's in the YouTube banner. It's in the description. Free to join. All the fantasy football content you could ever need is going to be in that Discord for you. Trade reviews, team audits, trade polls, a bunch of people that have like minds like you that are going to be talking Dynasty fantasy football, and direct access to ask me any questions about your Dynasty rosters. So go ahead and join that. And other than that, we will see you guys on our next video. So thank you again, but peace out.